Hello and welcome to my gardening channel. Thank you for joining me here. So I've been doing a lot in the garden the last few days because we've had some really lovely weather. So there's certainly a lot to do. Everything's come alive since the sun has been shining here in England, and lots of things need to be cut back. So you may remember me saying before, this part of my grass I'm trying to keep quite nice. I want this part of my grass to really look clear of weeds and like it's been looked after. And then in the rest of my garden I have like a wildlife area, and last time I cut the grass I cut in 2 pathways. However, the problem with this has been a few things. My husband says that his legs will get itchy every time he goes into the garden and the grass. And then yesterday my daughter was saying that her legs were itching. And we've also got to be careful with ticks because we have hedgehogs in the garden, and of course when there are hedgehogs there's a chance for ticks to be brought into the long grass. So during this video I cut that right back. It's quite difficult to cut with this lawnmower. My husband bought this lawnmower and it's to put stripes in the grass, but realistically our garden is not the sort of garden where you can have stripes in the grass. Either because it's quite difficult to manoeuvre the lawnmower or because we've got that ornament there. So I don't tend to actually use it for stripes. It's a very heavy lawnmower, and the fly mow that we used to have was much easier to move around, but we are where we are. It's quite difficult to keep this big lawnmower moving. So I get all this grass cut, and this does look quite nice, this grass. Now, because the other grass, where the other grass has been cut, because it was so long before, that looks a bit of a mess. So I need to cut it again in about 2 weeks' time. So once I've cut all this, you'll then see the camera angle changes slightly. And I do the corner where I've got a little chair which needs to go in the bin. A little stool that you can still use, but it is damaged, and I do think there's the potential for someone sitting on it and for it collapsing, so that probably needs to go into the bin as well. And then a bucket which we use to wash the car, which does need to be put back into the shed. You can see my hedge is still looking quite nice where I trimmed that back the other day, so that's still looking quite neat and tidy. But also there is a little pathway through the hedge and the bush there. So I'm going to cut that back a bit more so we can still use that pathway. Otherwise it'll be completely swamped with all the greenery. You can see in the left of the picture I also need to cut back that hedge as well. Then at this angle you can see the hedge in the bush in the middle, which I need to trim back, which is making it difficult to walk through the random little pathways. And then the bench there, which is my herb bench. You might remember in a previous video me saying about how it's got really wet. It's rotting quite badly, and as well as that the slugs seem to be eating it. There's loads and loads of slugs in it, those big massive great yellowy brown slugs. So I've dried it all out, and then I'm going to cover it with that piece of plastic that you just saw, and then put the pots on top. Now we might find that the slugs love it even more getting under plastic, but I'm hoping, because it's completely dried out, I'm hoping that it's not going to be too damp under there. That's the theory anyway. So I stand back all my herbs, which you might remember it was a couple of weeks ago that I took them all off. I must remember to water them really regularly because some of them are struggling, and it's definitely because I haven't watered them enough. So I need to make a point of doing that. I think for when I go away on holiday I'm going to get some of those containers where you fill them with water and then they drip for the entire time, and then people won't have to water them. I'm going to see whether I can get them. There must be some that you can get that are specifically for when you go away. And you can see my new mirror that's up, that it's looking really nice. And then I've got a couple of other mirrors which are older. One which is really old, the one that fell out of the frame, which I've just put at the bottom. You'll see me put that in there in a minute. And the other one which is like a window arch picture sort of frame, but slightly smaller than the one that I've got there. I was really pleased with those big mirrors They cost, I think they're £180 in a shop local to us, but at the end of the summer, they'd reduce them to £25 each. So I think I bought 4. One was going to be for my mum's Mother's Day present. And then I was also going to give one to my husband's mum, but then I haven't done. And then I've got my one. So I've got a spare one at the moment. So I might just keep that in storage, and when this rots and gets damaged and gets spoiled, I'll have another one to replace it with. I mean, £25 reduced from 180, just, it's incredible, isn't it? So you can see all my herb plants have all gone back quite neatly, and I can then cut the grass. I'm keeping that half of the pot at the moment because it's quite good for like insects and little animals to shelter. You can see that I then slot in the old mirror. I'm not sure whether I'll keep it there though. I just like it there for the moment. I think it looks quite nice. And then that's the other one that I got bought for my husband. I thought that looks nice standing that there. And then I get on with the grass. So now, because all the herb pots have been moved, I can then cut the grass. I've got 2 pots there that I need to put down the end of my working area. And then my basket there, my husband's got me that. It's a Laura Ashley basket, which was really nice to carry around, but it's kind of got limited use and now it's quite badly damaged. And here you can see where the 2 pathways were, only the pathways have started to get overgrown. So initially I was thinking I'm going to make this wider so the bits of grass don't like tickle your feet and itch your feet as you walk through. But then I decided just to do it all. So this was a really, really big job. And also you can see all on the left, daisies had self-seeded. They looked really pretty, but I decided I wanted to cut them back. So later in the video we cut some of those, and then my daughter takes them to Grandma, who lives a few doors down. So the grass had got really, really long, and what you'll see me doing is it's like a strange little walk stroke dance, because I go through the grass and just kick into it a little bit. And the reason I'm doing that is just in the unlikely event that there's a frog or a baby hedgehog or something that I wouldn't want to harm with the lawnmower. Every year hedgehogs get damaged by lawnmowers or those edging things, strimmers. You can also see the barrow there, the wheelbarrow full of wood. So that's all the wood that my husband's cut up. I now need to put that in the wood store, and then he needs to cut some more up. So hopefully by the end of the summer that massive great wood pile will be cleared and all the wood will be ready to be put on the fire. So I guess I'll have to season it because it's not had a chance really to dry out completely because they're massive great logs, but it'll be ready for me to use once it has been seasoned. You can also see on the left my lupins have nearly finished, so they're the purple ones. Those the blue purple are the delphiniums, and then you'll see me just going through the grass, just checking it all. I've got a gunnera in the middle of the grass because I'd got this idea that I wanted to create like a little stream, a little water section that you can have a little bridge over to get to my pots and my bench. And so that was why there was loads of concrete and rubble, but it sat there for like a whole year, and my husband just didn't have a chance to do anything with it, and I thought I'm not going to have that any longer. So I put all of that in the bin. So if we do ever get around to doing this little water feature, we'll just have to get some more. But we're thinking it could be sort of higher up near the tree and then gently slope and then be deeper in that left corner, bottom left corner. I like anything that's going to encourage more wildlife to my garden. So we did have frogs and toads, and we've had newts before in the garden, hedgehogs, insects, and the more insects we have, obviously you're going to have more insects over any sort of water source. That will then mean I'll get more bats, which we do have bats in the summertime, so anything I can do to encourage more would be really good. I'll need to put my bat box up as well. Last year for my birthday I got a bat box, and a swallow box, but I've not put either of them up yet. So hopefully we'll do that soon. Just having time at the weekend, isn't there? There's so many things that need to be done. I gave my husband a list this last weekend because there's so many things to do, to allow him to then work through the list. Makes me laugh watching this back. Makes it look like it's easy work with this lawnmower. It's not at all, it's hard work. It really is. I need to then do the edges because a lot of the grass has gone into the beds. I need to cut back the flowering raspberry, flowering currant as I call it, cut back a couple of the other bushes in the middle. There's quite a lot of shade in this part of the garden, which I quite like because on really hot days, it just feels so refreshing to have this shade. I think it's really important. So at this point, I was then wondering what to do with the daisies and how to cut the grass. And that's when I decided to pick the daisies and then to cut all the grass right back. This section has got a little bit out of control, which, as you know, I like to strike the balance between a garden which looks nice for us, but also a garden which is got plenty of homes and places for wildlife. So in a little while my daughter then comes out and cuts some of the flowers for me, and then we walk down to Grandma's and give the flowers to her. So what sort of gardens do you all have? Do you have grass or vegetable gardens or flower gardens? What sort of thing do you have? Do you have a garden similar to mine? I'd like in many ways to have a bigger garden, but then I think it's then further work, isn't it? Further maintenance. I just think in England there's been this drive to have, everybody wants more rooms or a bigger house, and nobody really minds about the garden. And some of the new build gardens have got really the house, say, so 2 or 3 bed house is on such a small plot. Their front garden and back garden is smaller than our front garden. I just think it's a dreadful shame. I think it's so nice to be able just to sit outside, and the risk is that everybody has patios and all block paving or the plastic grass, that we remove any chance for nature to thrive. So you can see the lawnmower is slowly getting through it, but it's not finding it easy work. And I think the whole of the lawnmower needs to be serviced, actually. I think it needs to be properly cleaned because there's so much grass under it that's all on in lumps. It needs to all be cleaned and cleared, and I think the blade probably needs to be sharpened. So I'll have to add that to my husband's list as well, because I don't know where we'd even go with that. Years ago, there used to be a place you'd be able to take your lawnmower and they'd sharpen the blades, but nowadays, how everything is, it's probably more likely that people would just take the lawnmower to the dump and get a new one. So you can see here, all this hedge that I need to, this bush is turning into a hedge. It's just a bush really. I need to cut all that back. It's finished flowering now, so I'll cut that back and try to shape that into more of a rounded sort of shape. So after I've done this, you then will see me spending a bit of time on our little vegetable patch. So the area that I have for vegetables is not really very big, but you saw in my greenhouse the other day all the different things that I'm growing. And I really enjoy growing things that we'll then have for roast dinners in the winter time, or beans in the summer, or peas in the summer. So if we still had the chickens, I would have given those massive great kale plants that had gone to seed, because that would have been a day's entertainment. So I wanted to weed all this area. My husband dug it all over. He reset the water sprayer to make it so it's more focused, since we don't need all that lead everywhere, so he changes all that. My daughter helps in the greenhouse, so you'll see her sorting that out and getting some plants out ready to be dug in. And as a family, we were really busy. Unfortunately, a lot of those pots, they're on the shelving unit, I overwintered those, and they were all things that were going to be flowering this year, and I've lost nearly all of them because I didn't water them. So nearly all of them have died. What a waste of time. I'm just thankful I don't remember what they all were, because if I remembered what they all were, it would make it so much worse, wouldn't it? So my husband comes out and he digs this whole area for me. And then we put in peas and beans. And we also, on the right hand side of that wire fence, we put in some pots of dwarf beans. So it's funny watching it back, because when I was clearing these pots out and putting the soil in the bin and putting the old plants in the bin, I should just add, this soil was the soil that I needed to get removed. So yes, we are putting some of it in the brown bin, but it was all the soil from the building work that we did, where we really needed to skip, but I wanted to save my money. So yeah, it's funny when you watch it back, because I obviously only knew what I was doing, what I was watching myself do. So I can then see how busy my daughter was, how much she managed to do, and all that my husband did. And while my husband was finishing off digging, I then went into the greenhouse and repotted some of my plants. So some of my kohlrabi died because the sprinkler system is not reaching it. So I was sad about that. But I've got, and I've run out of soil as well. I need more compost. So I repot some more kohlrabi. I repot some Loopin Russells, which have come up quite strongly. And then we put the peas and the beans in the ground. And my daughter and husband helped with creating like a little teepee in order for the beans to grow. And then the dwarf beans, they don't trail up anything. They're quite small plants, but they do give a lot of beans. We put them in the line of pots. So this video, you're going to see, if you keep watching, you'll see how busy we are and everything we managed to get done. My coat there, I got bought that the year before I fell pregnant with my daughter. And it felt a bit big. But then when I was pregnant, it was perfect through the winter. I wore all the way through the winter, and that kept me and my bump very warm. But then one side had her, and that is a bit too big, really. I didn't want to get rid of it because it's perfect as an outdoor coat. So that's what it's become. So you can see it's a bit damaged and a bit tatty. The pockets have got scissors, string, pencils, all the things that I need for when I'm gardening. But overall in my greenhouse, you can see that things are coming along really nicely. I've got some flowers as well that I've planted up. So my poached egg and nemesia. Some of them are frazzled by the sun, but I've managed to have some survive. The kohlrabi, which are really absolute tray full, I need to clear them. So I managed to do quite a lot, but I need to do quite a lot more. Got my variegated mint there that I want to put in one of my herb pots. Yeah, and you can see everything's growing quite well. And then you'll see me at a slightly different angle, sorting out all the pots for the dwarf beans. And I'm emptying out one of the compost bins, which was full of really good quality fertile soil, because a lot of it had all the chicken poo in it, which is now all rotted down. So we filled up some of the containers and put 2 or 3 or 4 beans in each container. So my daughter did do quite a lot, but then soon after this point, she was saying about how much her legs were itching, and I think that was partly after when I was going through one of the bins, I disturbed an ant's nest, and there were loads and loads of eggs. And the ants, they're only black ants, and you can tell they start biting. So I mentioned about, I've been bitten by these ants, and then after that she started saying that she was itching, and then she wanted to go indoors. So she went in and did her language practice whilst we finished off. And you can see my husband managed to get a lot of the beans all planted in. And then once we've done this, which you see we managed to do quite a lot, you'll see I change the angle and you can see the whole line of the beans that I've got in. So they're going to be quite easy to water. I then plant some more peas in and some more beans, so that's looking good after my husband dug it all over. I get some more soil to plant up my lupins. Now what I've learnt with lupins, I really love lupins, but lupins are really not fussy at all about the soil they grow in. And actually some of the best lupins that I've had have grown in the shingle and the stones. So the actual lupin has not survived in the bed, but seeds have been dispersed into the stones. And then I've had one grow up, beautiful pink one, which I haven't had the heart to pull up because I do love it, even if it's in the wrong place. I do love pink lupins. A lot of my lupins end up turning purple. But the ones that I'm growing in the greenhouse are yellow and red. So we'll see how they grow and how they get on. I find that often the first year they're yellow or red, and then the second year they revert to purple. Don't quite know how that happens, but it seems to be that's the dominant colour. And then right at the very end of my video, you'll see that I'm very pleased to be picking raspberries. We don't have loads and loads and loads, but we do have more than what we normally have, and enough for my daughter to have some with some of her ice cream. So thank you for watching my gardening video. I hope you've all had a lovely weekend, and I hope if you had time to spend in the garden, you let me know what you got up to. And I'll see you next time on my gardening channel.